Hey, the word ASEAN, A-S-E-A-N, is like NATO. It's an acronym. It stands for the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. There's 11 countries, including Indonesia, which is a pretty big country. And you'd be surprised how big countries like the Philippines and Vietnam and Thailand are, but they're all pretty poor also, to be honest. Neither Canada nor the United States are members of this club called ASEAN, but both were there, invited as guests. I'm going to show you what each of those two leaders did. Now, I'm sorry, you're going to find this very depressing. Now, let's start with Mark Carney. He left Canada during a crisis. His best friend, Doug Ford, had dumped $75 million, allegedly, into attack ads against Donald Trump, the same time as Canada's diplomats are trying to negotiate a trade agreement with them. Could you imagine if Trump had bought $75 million worth of political attack ads in Canada just to rough up Mark Carney, to whip up Canadian sentiment, to put pressure on Carney to compromise in a negotiation? I think it would be unthinkable, but that's what the brilliant neurosurgeon rocket scientist Doug Ford cooked up. And even when he agreed to stop the ads, he fudged that because he really wanted the ads to air during the World Series over the weekend. That surprised Trump, who had been told the ads were coming down. And he gave Canada a surprise in return, a 10% bump in tariffs.
On the flight yesterday, you sent out your social about the Canada tariffs. Can you walk through when you expect those to take effect? And can I ask why?
No, we're gonna let them know. Ronald Reagan loved tariffs. He used them sparingly, which he probably would make a mistake. He made a mistake in that. And again, I was the biggest fan of Ronald Reagan, but on finance, on trade, it wasn't his strong suit. But he liked tariffs, and they totally changed that to say that he didn't, because they're catering to the Supreme Court, because Canada has been ripping us off for a long time, and they're not going to rip us off anymore. Canada has been ripping us off for a long time. One of the most difficult countries to deal with has been Canada. As much as I love Canada itself and the people of Canada, they've just had a lot of bad representatives. They did a fake ad yesterday. They were caught. The Ronald Reagan Foundation was the one that caught him, and it was totally the opposite of what they said. So I don't like that. That's dirty pool, and you can't do that. And let me just tell you, they shouldn't have done it. And they've apologized, and they said, we're going to take the ad down. Well, they did it, but they did it very late. They let it play for another 2 nights, and now they took that ad down. So I don't know when it's going to kick in. We'll see, but I don't really want to discuss it.
By the way, here's a U.S. negotiator who says it's not even about the ad. It's about all sorts of antics by the Canadian negotiating team, and he specifically mentioned some holdovers from the Trudeau years.
Yeah, obviously the President Truth, something that reveals his frustration with the actions and postures of the Canadians through months of negotiations, and we'll see how it goes.
Mr. Hassett, on Canada, okay. You said the President was frustrated, but is this just a knee-jerk reaction?
I think the frustration has built up over time. I've been involved in some of these negotiations, and the Canadians have been very difficult to negotiate with. And you look at all the countries around the world that we've made deals with, and the fact that we're now negotiating with Mexico separately reveals that it's not just about one ad, that there's frustration that's built up.
And is he planning to speak with the Prime Minister Carney when they're both in Asia this week? Because this ad had nothing to do with Carney's government.
I don't have any information on that.
Mr. Hassett, how concerned is the administration that the Supreme Court will not ultimately side with your view on the tariff policy? The President has been truthing a lot about the upcoming case.
I think that we have a very high level of confidence that the Supreme Court will side with us. We think we're on very strong grounds. I've been fishing through the briefs myself just to see what the arguments are, and I think the case is very, very strong, and we're highly confident that they'll side with us. I even spoke in the Oval with the President about it last night, and I'd say the level of confidence is extremely high.
Mr. Hassett, just very quickly, what it has been so challenging about dealing with Canada in trade negotiations?
I guess the lack of flexibility, and also I would guess that leftover behaviors from like the Trudeau folks that can be very frustrating for people who are negotiating. absurd.
Anyways, I'd call that a crisis. Is there anything more important that Carney's doing? But, you know, his way of handling crises seems to be to run away to his happy place, his safe place, which is foreign conferences, as opposed to our parliament or a cabinet meeting or even just going down to the White House to try and fix things. I think that Mark Carney likes giving speeches in faraway places and sounding like a boring Goldman Sachs analyst, which he is. Just jargon-filled word salads. I'll show you. Let me show you his entire speech to this ASEAN conference. I got to tell you, the speech is just over 5 minutes long, and no one there cared what Carney had to say. The place was inattentive. Carney wasn't even standing up at a podium. He was just sitting in front of a microphone, low energy. I'm not sure if his speech was written out for him, but it doesn't really matter. It was just all that jargon fog machine. Take a look. I want you to promise to stay and listen to what Trump said and what Trump did by contrast. That's my whole point here, is to compare. So please don't be bored by Mark Carney and click away. I really want you to stay to see the difference between Carney and Trump at the same meeting. Okay? So here goes. I'm going to, like I said, it's about a 5-minute speech that Carney gave. I'll play the whole thing. I'll play the first 2.5 minutes without interruption. So that's half the speech right there. It's just a 5-minute long speech. Here, take a look.
Now, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as for the tradition, we will first invite the guests of the chair, and we begin with the Prime Minister of Canada.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, for that introduction, for your hospitality, and for your leadership in this vital forum at this historic time, and your leadership over the years and going forward. Your Royal Highness, Your Excellencies, it is an honor to be here. I chose this summit and this visit to Malaysia as my first trip as Prime Minister to Asia for a reason. And that is, like ASEAN, Canada values sustainability and inclusivity in everything we do. And I felt as I walked in to the summit, as I said to His Excellency, that I felt at home seeing the symbolism here. We value a rules-based system. We respect trade agreements and the rule of law. We value the free exchange of goods, capital, and ideas. We're a natural partner. And as one of your earliest dialogue partners, we value ASEAN as the standard bearer of multilateralism. And I just want to say a few words about how we can contribute to building that. I recognize your words this morning. We're at an uncertain time in the world. There's a shift. We don't know the new system that's going to emerge. This is more of a rupture than a transition. It's a shift that's happening in a short period of time. Multilateralism giving way to transactional bilateral trade, a new era of great power rivalry, technological change, shrinking distance, and increasing the fields of conflicts, developments that all challenge the effectiveness of the institutions on which we as middle powers have long relied. It makes ASEAN more important than ever. And it underscores the importance of reliable partners who honor their commitments, who are there in tough times, and when things are not working, who work collaboratively to fix them. And again, I want to commend you, Chair, and in brokering the peace agreement that was announced this morning. A future determined by commitment, not circumstance, again to quote. And colleagues, I would like to just underscore that Canada can be and is such a partner.
You know, in 2025, no one really cares about someone talking about a rules-based order. That's the idea that economic power and military power don't really count. It's whatever rules some bureaucrats at the UN publish that matter. That's just not how the world works. Certainly not in places like Ukraine and Russia and Israel and Gaza and China and Taiwan and anything. But even so, it's a lie. Mark Carney does not believe in a rules-based order. He violated the rules by unilaterally and unconditionally declaring Canada's recognition of a Hamas-led Palestine without adhering to any rules or any international systems like a UN vote. I don't believe in the UN. I think the rules-based system is code for blocking the United States. But it's a bit rich for the guy who claims to follow the rules just to give a big diplomatic gift to Hamas terrorists and pretend that he didn't. But other than that, would you agree that this speech really just sounds like a bunch of blather? Like a bored professor talking to bored students. He mentions a peace agreement. I'll come to that in a moment. It seems like he had no idea about it in advance. But unless I misunderstood him, I think he actually suggested in just a mumble that no one listened to that Canada might be willing to help do that. Canada can be and is such a partner. No one asked Canada to make a peace deal between Thailand and Cambodia. No one asked. No one asked Canada to help negotiate between Ukraine and Russia, or between China and Taiwan, or between Israel and Hamas. Literally, no one in the world thinks, what would Canada do? Let's ask them. Let's ask them for help. No one. And I'm embarrassed to say this, but it's downright pitiful to see this mumbler just sort of half-ass say it after the fact, suggesting that he could have been relevant to a peace deal or something. I'll show you more about the peace deal later. But let me play some more of his speech. We're halfway done, because here's where he starts in on his sales pitch to this half-empty room. I'll play just under a minute. Here, take a look.
To give an example, a few days ago I announced our plan to double our non-U.S. exports over the course of the next decade. That's more than $300 billion in new trade, much of which we hope will be with this group. We think we can do that because we have much of what the world wants. We're an energy superpower in both clean and conventional. We expect within the next 5 years to produce and export 50 million tons of LNG every year to Asia, and to double that within 10 years from then.
So Carney says we're an energy superpower, both clean and conventional. But we're not. We're a serious producer of oil and gas, but both are very limited by the fact that you can't build pipelines in Canada and you can't build tanker facilities because the government will stop you. The Liberals killed the Northern Gateway pipeline and the Energy East pipeline, and they haven't lifted a finger to revive the Keystone XL pipeline after their ally Joe Biden killed it. Now that Trump is there, they would revive it in a second. But what does a clean energy superpower even mean? We export some electricity to the U.S., most of it from hydroelectric dams, not from windmills or solar panels, which is what I think Carney means. Now, he does mention LNG, liquefied natural gas. He refuses to say the word oil. But as Liberals have been an impediment to LNG, remember, Justin Trudeau actually said there was not a business case for it, and he turned down countries like South Korea, Japan, Germany, and India, who all wanted Canadian energy. Listen to what he says about rare earth minerals, which are needed for some high-tech things like magnets and batteries. Take a look here, and I'll come back to it in a minute.
We're one of the largest, blessed with one of the largest resources of critical minerals and rare earths, just like many around the table. And part of our partnership offer is to work with you on financing and developing that, including through what we formed a critical mineral alliance, which can provide a secure buyer for these resources so that you can develop them over time. In other words,
do you understand that? He says he's ready for financing and development for them, not for us. He says you twice. So he's going to take Canadian money and put it into foreign countries? What does he mean by that? Does he think he's at Brookfield or something? He's offering them money. Whose money? Taxes, I presume, to develop Asian resources. I thought he was trying to sell them on developing our resources. Play that again.
We're one of the largest, blessed with one of the largest resources of critical minerals and rare earths, just like many around the table. And part of our partnership offer is to work with you on financing and developing that, including through what we formed a critical mineral alliance, which can provide a secure buyer for these resources so that you can develop them over time. In other words,
you can develop them. No, we can develop them. What? I don't know what he's talking about there. Maybe I've misunderstood him. Maybe he's just saying nothing. And then he starts to ramble and mumble. I guess he saw that he has just 60 seconds left by this point. So he sort of goes nuts, and it sort of overheats and short circuits, and he says all the buzzwords at once: cyber, AI, he just starts reaching for his happy places. Catalyze, a generational investment. Well, that's his favorite. Watch this explosion of jargon.
With respect to defense, AI, cyber, just to give context, we are quadrupling our spending on defense in the next 5 years. Much of that will be in the realms of cyber security, artificial intelligence, and the interactions. This is an area where our cooperation is ideal.
Do you know what he even means by that? They shoehorned him into a meeting. This is why he ran away from Canada. For 5 minutes of mumbling when no one was even in the room. He wasn't even standing at a podium. The one thing that was tangible was him saying he's going to quadruple spending on the military. I don't believe him. Canada spends about $40 billion a year. Do you really think he's going to quadruple it to $160 billion a year? Of course not. But even if he were, what's his point? Why is he telling that to these other countries? Is he going to send them some of the shipbuilding contracts or something? Is he inviting them to get some of that business? What on earth is that false boast? What does it have to do with getting investors to put money into Canadian factories or to buy Canadian goods? I don't know. And then he just lies. This is the final clip. I hope you haven't turned this off yet because you've just got to hear Trump by contrast. Here's the final moments.
President Prabo, thank you. We concluded a historic trade agreement, our first bilateral free trade agreement with an ASEAN partner, with speed and with ambition. This reflects what we want to do as a government. We will bring the same commitment to bilateral discussions with any of you who are interested, but very importantly, and this is something I wanted to underscore, we would like to complete the negotiations of the Canada-ASEAN Free Trade Agreement over the course of next year's presidency. President Marcos, we discussed earlier. We will put all the resources in. And finally, to supplement your work on digital, on clean tech, and on energy wherever we can, because this is the forum of reason and respect. This is the form of inclusivity and sustainability, and we are keen to contribute in any way we can. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so Mark Carney is all about speed and ambition, people. Today is his 228th day as Prime Minister. What has he done so quickly and ambitiously? Again, he mutters the buzzwords digital, clean tech, but he doesn't say what he means. Is he trying to get them to invest money in Canada? Is he offering to spend our money on them? Who knows? No one knows, and no one there really cares. He ends with some sort of passive-aggressive comment that ASEAN, this group, is a form of civility and inclusivity. I think he's taking some subtle jab at Trump. But he was crystal clear, wasn't he? He said he concluded a trade agreement with an ASEAN country. I looked it up, and I don't think he has. Now, there was a deal with Indonesia that was done last year, and they signed the paperwork recently. Maybe that's what he means? I don't know. I mean, if he's taking credit for that, I guess it's true. But it would be a weird thing to lie about. I don't know. Here's the statement that I thought he was referring to. He put this statement out about meeting the head of the Philippines. The headline is, Prime Minister Carney met with the President of the Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. I read the statement, and it says that Canada has been slowly negotiating freer trade with the ASEAN group for years, and that'll continue for at least another year. And the big news in that press release apparently, is that now Canada will also directly negotiate with the Philippines, and that's going to take at least a year to negotiate. So that's starting now, as in they don't have an agreement yet. By the way, I like the Philippines, but we only do about $3 billion in two-way trade each year with them. We sell them about $1.4 billion worth of stuff every year. Compared with $1 trillion or $1,000 billion we do business with the U.S. So it's sort of pitiful, sort of lame. I see he was pretty proud to meet with the leader of Laos. Our exports there, I checked, are $18 million. Not billion, million. I have no beef with Laos. I couldn't find them on a map, honestly, but I'm sure they're nice. I think running away from the crisis in Washington for a photo op with Laos is pretty weak. So that's our guy. That's our elbows up guy. Honestly, what even was his message? If you take all the filler words out of his speech, AI, cyber, clean tech, digital, sustainable, transformative, catalyzing, decisive action, you take all those words out, there was only three things he said in that whole speech. He's going to quadruple military spending, which just is not true. And what's that got to do with exports? He says he signed a free trade deal. If he means the one that was negotiated last year, I guess that's true, but that's a weird thing to boast about. And he's taking a veiled dig at Trump not being civil. Speaking of whom, Trump landed at Malaysia around the same time too, and he announced two real things almost immediately. A peace deal between Thailand and Cambodia. I didn't even know they were fighting. Here, take a look.
Now we can do a merger on this list. We have another one.
Oh, just that, just another peace deal. Now, some might point out that there have been attempts at getting those two countries together for a long time, and that Trump just came along at the end as they crossed the finish line. Well, I suppose, but that's sort of the point. No one could make it stick. No one could get it across the finish line. No one could get it done. No one else could turn a maybe into a yes. No one else had the charisma, the authority, the economic power, the diplomatic power, the carrot and the stick. Just like Joe Biden allegedly was working on peace for Israel his whole term, well, Trump did it in a few months, getting both the Jews and the Arabs to agree. Oh, but don't forget our Mr. Mumbles. He said he's available in case anyone wants him as a mediator or whatever it was that he said in that incoherent speech. But besides a peace deal, Trump announced a trade deal the day he landed. And by deal, I mean a real deal, not a promise to try and get a deal a year from now. You can read the deal on the White House website. It's very long and very beneficial to the United States. I skimmed the whole thing. It's very long. Let me tell you some of the highlights. It has 19% tariffs on Malaysian exports to the United States. So they pay for access to the U.S. market, and in return, they grant preferred market access for Americans in the Malaysian economy. Isn't that what Carney said he was supposed to go to this conference in Malaysia to do? Didn't Carney want access to markets? Our guy didn't get them. Trump did. Remember, Carney mumbled something about critical minerals. It was weird. He said Canada had them, but then he said something about ASEAN developing them. I'm not sure what the deal was. Actually, I am sure there is no deal, just a mumble. But let me read the critical minerals section of Trump's deal, which is in black and white. Malaysia has committed to refrain from banning or imposing quotas on exports to the United States of critical minerals or rare earth elements. Malaysia has committed to the expedient development of its critical minerals and rare earths sectors in partnership with U.S. companies, including granting extended operating licenses to create certainty for businesses to increase production capacity. Malaysia has committed to ensure no restrictions are imposed on the sale of rare earth magnets to U.S. companies. So U.S. companies get to go into Malaysia, mine rare earths, sell it to America with no impediments, no, taxes or tariffs for an extended time. Pow! China's strategic advantage over rare earth minerals just disappeared. And remember Carney mumbled something about LNG? Yeah, Trump just signed a deal on that too. Let me read it to you. Malaysia will, quote, purchase up to 5 million tons per annum of liquefied natural gas, estimated at up to $3.4 billion per year. And unlike Canada, the U.S. has plenty of LNG liquefaction plants. They frack the natural gas, they pipe it to the ports, they liquefy it, and they put it on ships to Asia. They're doing that now. We have a single LNG plant that's operational, and it's just started, and it's not even up to full speed yet, and there's problems with it, and the grand total it's shipped ever is less than 1 million tons. Now, I'm rooting for it. I hope Carney doesn't kill it, or the other LNG projects that are trying to get built. I hope Carney doesn't kill the gas pipelines to feed these LNG plants. But Trump just signed a 5 million ton a year deal with Malaysia while we're still figuring out where our naval is. Oh yeah, and then this part of the deal. procurement of 30 aircraft plus a purchase option for 30 additional aircraft. Now, I'm not sure if those are fighter jets that America would sell or passenger jets, but that in itself is a multi-billion-dollar coup. I'm not going to read the whole deal. I'd characterize it two ways. Number one, Malaysia pays to sell its goods into America and agrees to let America sell significant goods into Malaysia on favored terms. But more importantly, America locks in Malaysia's rare earths, dealing a blow to China's ambitions in the region. So yeah, one meeting, ASEAN, two different leaders, Carney and Trump. Based on what you've seen, Trump is absolutely going to devour Carney, isn't he? Stay with us for more.